Hi, I'm Leo Faerberg, a clinical psychologist, and I'm happy to be on the Prosperity Show.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a truly inspiring guest whose journey is as profound as it is unique. Now, Leonid, how are you doing today?
Excellent. Nice to see you. And I'm happy to be welcomed on your show.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I've always seen you in my news feed, and I'm like, wait a minute, this individual has a very unique story. So I'm glad we are going to be exploring that on the show today. And for those that are watching right now, thank you so much for tuning in to the Online Prosperity Show, the #1 show where we get to help you to stop random acts of marketing. But today, we're actually not even talking about marketing. We're talking about life. I want you to imagine having to uproot your life and leaving everything that's familiar in order for you to seek safety and authenticity in a new land. And that's exactly what our guest did. And with over 25 years of experience as a clinical psychologist, Leo actually transitioned from Russia to Ireland, not just to continue his practice, but to embrace his true self in the face of adversity. Now, a pivotal member who is now working, with other people there in Ireland, and he's also a member of the Athlone Care Clinic. Leo is now integrating a holistic approach to mental, relational, and spiritual well-being and guiding clients from all walks of life. Now, Leo, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. I mean, you've had an impressive track record, but tell us a little bit about why you actually had to move from Russia to Ireland.
I faced some challenges concerning my identity because, let's say, I don't want to go too deep into this issue. Let's say I'm queer. In Russia, queer people are now they were always not very welcome. There was a glimpse of freedom for a second when people could start embracing their identities, and but then especially throughout the latest 10, 15 years, we got up more and more oppressed. It was never safe to be, any type of queer person in Russia, but in late years, our identities were used to drag people's attention to the terrible perspectives that will bring to the children of Russian people, and partially that's what our government is fighting for, is the traditional values and the true roles of men and women, and for the what they say, demographic policies, that we people are all responsible for Russians not wanting to have more children, and not having more children, because we are facing a demographic crisis, which is obviously Western world is facing all over the place. And for my whole life, I tried, and I did. I lived what's called normal life. I was born. I actually. Okay, I will do it because I am still very, reluctant and uneasy about talking publicly about this. Actually, for most of my life, I lived as a woman. I'm a transitioned man. I'm a transgender man. I lived as a woman, and I tried to live the perfect woman's life. I had an education, a family, children, I have two children in this marriage. I tried to build a career. I tried to start. I started academic career. I'm in research in my field, um, but and I started a little business or two. So because I tried to be as perfect as possible, and I thought and it was okay, it was fine. But when you become older, you face some other like extra challenges. It's coming from inside. When you face some kind of a crisis, it wasn't a full-blown crisis in the beginning, but just something's wrong. Something's wrong. I'm trying to be whatever I am. And so happened that I finally came to realization that I'm not that perfect and straight and normal. And I met a woman, and again, I realized that I need to transition for several reasons. It's a very wide and very controversial topic, uh, because some people are very woke and are very for celebrating and embracing whatever identity you realize in yourself. Others are very skeptical and very opposed to that in the Western world as well. As a psychologist, I know that. Probably being a psychologist was something that held me from doing it because I know there is a trauma in my life. There is, um, that and that. Maybe I'm just trying to play a different game, to compensate for my traumatic experience as a teenager or something. Many people have traumas, and they do try to find different ways of covering it or compensating for it. Uh, I was in therapy, of course, as part of my training and for my own needs, but I always almost never rose this question because I still thought it was something special, something deep inside. So I transitioned, and it was a whole scandal in my town. Our town I come from is not very big, and they come from a family of physicians who were also well known in town. And so when my kind of perfect family broke, um, and the most scandalous part of it is that we decided with my ex-partner and my ex-spouse and we decided that the children will stay with him. Um, of course, the whole town just burst into discussion, and mostly, um, of course, uh, ostracizing. And I already had a big practice quite a big practice as a psychologist, a little bit of private practice, a little shop. I had a little shop. I worked all my career as a psychologist. I worked with pregnant and expecting mothers and in labor and early motherhood with families with little children, little babies. And I also had a little shop where we sold um, maternity outfits and breastfeeding clothing. And so I did a lot in the social sense about educational stuff like teaching breastfeeding and making early care of the babies, not just physical care, like hygiene and everything, but the importance of emotional connection with the child. And so I did a lot of educational work. And so we had that little shop. And I also I worked in a maternity sphere in the hospital. And so I was also well known in town. And of course, so many people, they were starting discussing me on social media publicly. And it hurt badly because, of course, most of the voices were about, oh, this crazy woman. Oh, never take your children to her. because she could not deal with her own problems. How can she help you with your um, children? She will have bad influence on them and everything like that. It was very hurting and unpleasant, because I know that I always did my best. I always learned more and more, and I got different extra specialties, because what I wanted, two things: I wanted to embrace human psychology as much as possible, because you never, like, it's like the more you know, the more you know that you don't know enough. And there's something, and there's something. And I wanted to provide the best practice possible. And mostly I was thinking about systems. Like, when someone comes to you, or someone brings you a child to you, it's like what the person had, and it all piled up since the early childhood. Every psychologist know that, obviously. We all work with the childhood issues and developmental issues. Uh, and I was trying to do everything, because I worked in the maternity sphere where the child is just born. Uh, it's the earliest possible prevention scheme. I worked out a whole system for our maternity, where when a pregnant woman comes in the early stages of pregnancy, of course, physicians know what to do with it, sure enough. But the psychological part of it, starting with the way they talk to her and the way they treat her, because medicine, even in Western countries, is very patriarchal system, uh, like authoritative, because doctors know it all. You know nothing. You do what we tell you, and so it does have this attitude towards the patient or the client. And so, starting with trying to convince medical staff and teach them how to treat them in the psychological sense, and then what screening we could do to do the early assessment of whether they have any emotional trouble or not, and then bringing them to me, referring them to me, and then I had two colleagues, which is unheard of. I'm actually the first psychologist hired in a maternity, officially hired to a maternity hospital, as public funded maternity hospital. So that's again, it's a long story, and so I got this big blow of my reputation, but I couldn't be different. However, some people who were on my side said I did something brave and heroic, and how I could wondered how I could find this, bravery to do it in Russia. But it was not about bravery, actually. It was about this is who I am. I could not hold it anymore, and I'd better live like hard, but live myself. And it was a hard life. I engaged with my other partner. We have children, and it's another long story. I probably won't go further. Just to know that we have two wonderful children. And the first time I'm telling it, like on a show like this, I know some
Thank
friends
you.
know the story, but
Thank you.
uh, and yes, it was hard. We moved to a little village near my town, where we hoped nobody will know. Uh, but it's too close. Most of the people work in town, uh, and it partially ruined my career, and I also quit from the maternity for several reasons, not just this one, but this one as well. I quit before transitioning, because I thought probably we could live without transitioning, but that I finally decided that I will do that. Okay. So I transitioned already, and I needed money, uh, and I went to work to school there, village school, as a psychologist and a teacher of English, because basically that's my first education. That's why I can speak English more or less, decently because it's my first education, and I learned English for my whole life. And so I started teaching and also working as a school psychologist, like both, and having my private practice and whatever work I could find to provide for my family. And somebody outed me, of course. That's someone heard and who I was, and told. And I later I knew that teachers knew, but they were silent about it. But then somebody outed me to the teenagers, and that was another full-blown scandal. So had to quit. There are many details in that story. Had to quit school with a. I mean, they made so. They did not fire me officially, but like some suddenly in the middle of the year, they say, "Oh, we have to cut this position because the funds are not enough." In the middle of the school year. Of course, I realized they just want to dump me, but do it in a nice way. So because they don't have obvious reasons for firing me, because it was not in the legislation at that time. Because in this while it was all going on, Russia started creating all these laws about LGBTQ propaganda and stuff. I was never an active, uh, you know, uh, how to call it. I was never active about my LGBTQ identity. I don't find it appealing to me. I am for every human right, rights, and it's just a part of life. I don't want to be identified as a queer or not queer or whatever. I even kind of dislike the notions. This is who I am. I did what I did. I proceed doing my job, living my life, taking care of my family. Uh, so it was also hurtful that they make me that monster who is trying to influence the children of Russia, because it and probably the thing that I was never silent about the system. That's the thing. I was criticizing medical system. I was criticizing not angrily or actively, but it's just you guys are ruining their emotional life. You are not noticing these traits, this and this and this, and you are like spoiling the child's development in school, for example. And I explain why, and I explain what to do, but they just look at you and proceed doing what they do because it's school. It's been there for 200 years as a school system. Like, and it's not a bad school. It's just a school. That's how they are run all over the world. That child is lazy. This child is brought up like bad behavior. Stop this behavior. The behavior is
Right.
the last point in the chain. There is a reason for this behavior. Start with the reason.
Right.
And so all that stuff. So and of course when you kind of you don't have to be like an angry critic, or you just have to mention these things and you become it's like, I will jokingly call it an enemy of the state. And so when the war in Ukraine started, they chose this rhetoric of transgender people being the worst of evil. And that was and it brought a big stress to the country as well, to people. I tried to support all my clients. I tried to help them find at least some balance in trying to take the situation as it is and do their job. That's what I've been doing. Because you cannot affect these big events, but you can try to keep at least some balance within you and within your family. That's the first thing you have to protect. Yourself and your family and your friendships, because this war started ruining friendships and relationships because people would go to defend some side, one of the sides. But I was trying to support people in this position. Okay, this is what's going on. Try to keep your relationships. That's the most important thing. And I got a warning from a friend of mine because, some people have connections, some people have information. And a friend of mine warned me that he said, you're on the list. I said, what list? uh, like they are going to be, uh, they will be after some people whom they don't want, whom they don't like, and maybe especially transgender and other queers. Um, I said, what do you mean? Well, they're talking about forced psychiatric cure. They are talking about trying to probably prosecute you for LGBTQ propaganda because there is a legislation already. And so, and I thought that I don't want to explore what our state is able to do. I didn't wait. I I started looking for the ways to leave the country, because it's not about just leaving the city. It's one thing, but you are always on the radars. If I'm not that big of a criminal to chase me all around the huge territory of Russia, but at the same time, you're still everywhere. Whatever you post on social media, if they don't like it, if they think it's condemning their policies or the war, they will be after you, no problem. So I started looking for opportunities to leave the country, which is quite hard for Russians. Many Russians go to countries like Georgia or Turkey, where they can enter without visa. Most countries have Russians to have visas. But I wanted it to be an English-speaking country where I could proceed use my skill, and so it happened that I had someone I knew in Ireland, a colleague of mine, and she agreed to help me. So I got, and she's the director of Athlone Care Clinic in Ireland, and she created this job for me. And it took a long time. It was a long waiting. I went to Moscow. I waited for more, not let's say in the whole on the whole, it took about a year and a couple of months. Wow. While we were waiting for one point, then another point, then next paper, and so I finally got the work permit, and then it took another about almost 3 months to get a visa. After getting other difficulties, very little job, because I had my online practice, but it was not a big practice. I tried to create it, but at first it's not an easy task, though. We can talk about the marketing issues as well. Then I was kind of afraid of going public, like in a wide sense. One thing is your social media and people you know, and mostly in your town. Other thing is doing this full-blown marketing thing, which costs money, of course, which I always lack. I do my best, but it's still like family, nothing to invest into the business. And then another thing, when I decided that I'll try again while I'm waiting in Moscow, but as again I was very scared of publicity, and I was very anxious. I'm a psychologist myself. I do recognize stuff. Thanks God, I usually I practice what I preach. When I teach people self-regulation, um, mindfulness, conscious living, I try to do the same. I do exercises. I meditate in my own manner, and but it was enough just to keep myself afloat. You know, uh, I didn't have any energy. I felt this fear all the time. I know perfectly well. I stay in my friend's apartment in Moscow. I don't have to go anywhere. No one's waiting for me in the yard or in the neighborhood. Of course not. I'm not again this uh, range of a criminal to catch me all over the place. But it's that subconscious fear, and all I could do, I couldn't fight it. I could only kind of hold it, not to have a full-blown breakdown or not to go into a deep depression. And I still tried to do my online business to make a funnel, to create videos. But it's like when you don't have energy, I hired people. The rest of the money I had, I thought my team could make it for me. Like if I, but it completely failed. Absolutely failed because yes, I spent the money for paying people, mostly doing technical things because I'm very bad at technical part. Making videos for YouTube, um, you know, programming the bot in the app and stuff. I wouldn't do it anyway. But nevertheless, if you do it, if you don't have your energy present, if you are not excited about what you do,
It
it won't
translates.
work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I knew it, but I still tried because, oh, I'm sitting here not making enough money. My family needs money there in my town. I need money. So, but I had some money, so I could support myself throughout. And of course, I had some clients online. It was not that I was just wasting money. And finally, I moved here, and I was so excited to join because we were talking about a new project and joining the team and creating stuff and working. I already started seeing some clients online from Ireland, two or three of them, uh, to mostly to compensate for some uh, expenses that my friend here, my director, was she was spending a little bit. Me too. And so it's like the romantic part is that finally, when I came to the moment that I got my visa and I could buy my tickets, it's like the whole year checking out the prices for the flights in Dublin. There's no straight flight now from Moscow to any city in Europe. It's just going long distances, like one flight going to Qatar, that then go to Ireland, and it's all terribly expensive. And it's like, okay. And finally, I can buy my ticket. It was almost the last money I had. I literally came into Ireland with 200 euros in my pocket. It would be romantic. I had some money saved from, but very little money from the counseling I did during the summer months for my Irish clients. Because I was also afraid to start my Irish practice because I didn't know if I'll be able to come. Unless you get the visa, you don't know whether you finally will be let into the country. So finally I came, and in the beginning it was all fine, but and I was all bubbling with this energy that I have stuff to propose. I have things to do. Well, that's what we can do. That's what we can do. But then it appeared that how to put it? It's nobody's fault. It's just they have their own life. They have their own practice here. The project they've been working on is just they're working on it. And I probably was like an alien element here. Like people are protective of their projects, and it's not easy to team up in reality. We can talk about it, but and so I
But at least
it's
you could
like
speak English, right? That's
I can speak English. I have several clients, and it was just enough for me to, and it is just enough for me for now to provide, and no, and like no for my accommodation and for my food. And I also still have Russian clients, but that all goes to my family because for financial reasons I couldn't bring them in. There was there was an opportunity, but I didn't have money to bring them in. And probably it's good because I still wouldn't have money to support them to provide the living here because
right.
I'm making just enough for myself. And it was another blow, you know, when you realize that the plans are not working out. And it's like the matter of a couple of weeks that I realize I cannot bring in my family. I'm not being actively included in the teamwork. I don't have, I have very few clients. And of course, you know, that type of work when you in the counseling, any type of counseling, sometimes they cancel, sometimes the work is done and you finish, and there is no one next, or you lose this little sum of money that is you were supposed to get. But I was lucky to get this room because Ireland has a terrible housing crisis. It's very expensive and it's very few. You cannot find, it's hard to find a place to stay.
Mm.
I'm very lucky to get this room. A very nice one. Uh, I was, again, I was very frustrated and disappointed, and I already came kind of actually burnt out. And at some moment, when I noticed this anxiety rising, this terrible state coming back, I thought, okay, it's winter time. I have to stop. I have to let myself just be and recover. Work, do some work with, as much as I have. I got a couple of clients from America, again, because I'm not advertising online. I'm not even properly working with the social media because I noticed that I can speak English fine, though it is, you know, when you know how the brain functions, and I know it, you realize that probably, yes, I have the skill of English, but I wasn't speaking much. I was mostly listening to podcasts and audiobooks. I was speaking sometimes, but when you switch to speaking a foreign language full time, it gives another extra, you know, activity in your brain. And my brain is exhausted. And I noticed that I'm being exhausted. I started writing posts on LinkedIn, Facebook in English, which is another skill because in Russian I can type, like blind type, not looking at the keyboard. But
Yeah,
for
'cause
English, it's
it's a
not
second
that,
language,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. And so, but you have now you have to give it like extra effort, and it's draining me because when they say, okay, you go and learn, you grind it. I'm already ground. I'm already drained, and so every effort it's like kind of it seems easy, but then you're so tired. And that I said I won't be able um, to to work to enjoy life if I don't give myself a break. And actually, what I've been doing for the last like almost 3 months, giving myself a break. not doing anything, and not just not doing anything in particular, but not accepting it, not being angry or ashamed of myself for not doing. I'm a workaholic. Again, as many people who are perfectionists, who have trauma because I mean, this is something I'm not going to talk about, but just for people to know, when you have something from your past, something unresolved, and everybody tell you just get over it, work hard, do your best, you know, uh, achieve, make money, learn, like, and it still drains your energy. It still, um, it makes you develop some unhealthy habits. Not necessarily, it may be physical habits like eating disorders, maybe not necessarily disorders. Sleeping patterns are broken. Your brain is just overwhelmed, and you're trying to do your best all the time because you're always not enough. Not you work hard, and money is still not enough. You work hard, and uh, you still see that you don't know things. You work hard, and then you get ostracized and dumped by the society and even by the friends who used to respect you and know you, and it hurts. At least hurts, and at maximum, it again breaks down your brain, your energy, and so you have to take care of your nervous system. That's the basic thing. You cannot convince anybody to like you back. Okay.
And now
And
you're sort of working with individual therapy and group sessions and family
and
counseling. How are you
I
tailoring your approach to meet these diverse, and different groups?
uh right now I just have individual clients. I hope I'll because I had this rest. I gave myself this time to recover, and now I feel like February, when we joke that yeah, it's the uh will of the year, the spring is coming, and I noticed that my energy is coming back. Because I really want to start groups. I have some online work, but mostly with my Russian clients. But I really want to start moving here in Ireland. I have several clients. I go to the office to work with them, and the diversity. That's what I do best. I embrace diversity because I stand on the position all people, whatever they are, whatever their background is, they have nervous systems. They are people, they are human. And that's the generalizing position, to embrace all the diversity, because then you start realizing, okay, this is the way you function. Like, that's your personal signature. Sometimes your personal signature is very painful. Sometimes is maladaptive. Sometimes some patterns are broken, and there may be many reasons for that. And sometimes it's not even that important what the reason is. It's just, okay, tell me or show me or let me see what's going on with you and how you cope with your anxiety, with your difficulties, with your uh, overwhelm, with your loneliness. These are actually the main points now. Uh, People
Mm,
are very lonely. People lack
absolutely.
connections.
So if somebody finds themselves in that sort of scenario, what's the best way they can maybe get in touch with you, or maybe if they're in Ireland, come to your clinic? What would be the best way?
Or both. You can find me on LinkedIn, because probably that's the most decent social media I have. Because my Facebook is a bit messy, because it's both in Russian and in English. So the English speakers probably should find me on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And I also have a very big experience with all types of clients, uh, from clinical psychology and psychotherapy, and up to coaching, because I was developing like a big range of skills, and sometimes it's it's just in one session. So okay, this is a therapeutic part. Then we go into coaching. Then okay, what do you do with this whatever issue? And
Okay.
so yeah, and
So
I
for
look
someone,
forward to groups because what people lack are connections, and groups work perfectly, not just because they're cheaper for the client, but they give this extra boost with communicating with each other and seeing things through other people's eyes, but again, having a place and a space to discuss it in a safe way. Because
mm,
I am the safety provider. I won't let people insult each other or,
you know, yeah, you give that space. Now, for somebody who
yeah.
might be hesitant to seek therapy, what would you say to encourage them to take that first step towards their mental well-being?
I think that mental well-being is the main driving force of whatever you do, because again, people think that you have just to forget things or suppress things or get over. But we know that the brain is very active, you just don't realize it. And the troubles that are unresolved, the traumas, the conflicts that are unresolved, and you think you forget them, or like tell yourself just, oh, don't mind, go on. They drain your energy and they steal your motivation from you. And if you think about mental help as mending your driving force, mending, like clearing out your like cache, like in the computer, is so that your energy might go into the spaces that you need it to, whether it's business, whether it's family connections, whether it's just rest. Because, as I said, you can give yourself a break. You can stop from doing extra things to give, as if you're giving yourself a rest. But if your mind is racing, but if your anxiety is spiraling up, it's not a rest, it's just doing nothing. That's right, I mean, physically. But your brain is working and again draining your energy, you then don't get rest. So if you look at it as not just talking about things, talking helps, but not all along. There are so many things that contemporary mental health providers can do to help you regulate your nervous system and help you balance your energy in the right way. Physical energy and spiritual energy, I believe in both. They are like actually the parts of the whole.
Absolutely. Now that we've, got to know you a little bit, and yeah, you've shown us the way to connect with you. What's next? What can people expect from you, Leah?
First of all, it's my time, attention, and my uh, expertise, because first thing I want to know is what's going on. Who, as you let me talk about myself and tell my story, that's actually what I want from my clients. I'm very humanistic. I'm not technical because I've got tons of tools and methods, and because I was curious to learn several, not just one school of thought or school of therapy. And I I treat every person as, again, I told you, as a they have their individuality, their experience make them a unique personality. Everyone uses this term, oh, your unique personality, but I want to know it. How do you present yourself in this world? What's hidden? What are those underwaters? What's bubbling inside of you that probably you are not conscious of? Just tell me more. Tell me more. About 30% of my work is helping a person to accept themselves as they are, even if it's some type of, even if it's a disorder. It's just, for now, this is the way you operate. Even if there is a problem, I mean, a serious clinical situation. Let's look at this. This is part of how you operate now in this world, and what we can do maybe to work with the painful stuff, something that's hurting you or maybe possibly hurting others, and how you can embrace your individual traits. Because very many things that people are anxious about, they are not pathological. They are a result of the patterns and stereotypes, the societal things like I am a woman, I am supposed to be like this. I am a man, I should or I should not be like this, be so sensitive. But you are. So what do we do with your sensitivity or with your emotions, with your ADHD? Because it's just a different type of operating your brain. It's just different brain. So let's see, you're not like, especially in business, people with ADHD are good at starting stuff and having ideas, but very bad in implementing them. Like I have a high functional ADHD, actually. Probably that's one of the reasons I don't have my stable business, because I have too much to know. It's just so fun. And so, okay, what will be the best pattern for you to implement what you want? You know? So
Absolutely.
I'm that's probably what people can expect of me, is that we'll be working on your individual patterns and not just a protocol, like whether it's a CBT protocol or EMDR protocol. What's
Absolutely.
going
Now,
on?
this will be the last question I'm going to be
Yeah,
asking as we
great.
conclude this, right? Now, Leo, I mean, you went on a journey. First of all, it was a lot of self-discovery, and then also on a journey of resilience, where you went from one place to another. Did you find what you were looking for?
Oh, not yet. No. I think I'm in the beginning of finding out why I was brought to Ireland, because I also believe in the spiritual side of things and a little bit into the fate, uh, that it was Ireland for some reason. The funny thing that I started learning Irish language just for fun and for my brain development about 6 months before uh, this idea happened to to go to Ireland to save myself. I wasn't thinking about it at all. I was not going to leave the country. I started learning Irish language. And I think it's the part of the fate that I was brought to Ireland, not to any other country. That I'm not, now I'm re-evaluating what I do and what I would like to do, because it's probably not just individual counseling or even group counseling. I really want to have impact. You know, that I told you, it's systemic impact, because I am frustrated with the fact some therapists are also frustrated, but we have to deal with what we have to. It's when you see that so many things could be done for this child, so many things could be done for this person going through like addiction or other difficulties, not to the point that they have to come to a private counselor and pay so much money just because their family can afford it. Because so many people, mental health is a necessity. It's not a privilege. Mental health care, it's not a privilege. Nowadays, it's the first thing first thing probably, yes, you have physical health, but psychological health is part of physical health. It's your nervous system operating. It's your connections. It's your performance. And every person in the world has to have some way of dealing with difficulties. But modern society provides more stress than help. So we have to think systemically.
Absolutely.
We have to uh, see what we can do on the basic level, like from the start, from conceived, when the child is conceived, because I have this experience from the start to the end,
Absolutely.
from birth to death.
Absolutely. Now, Leo, we're gonna have to invite you back again, so we can go into more depth, with your journey and your story. But as we conclude this, as we conclude this profound conversation with, Leo Faerberg, I really encourage you to reflect on the themes of resilience, self-discovery, and the holistic well-being we've actually explored today. I know there's so much that we could have spoken about, but for those that are watching right now, if you found value in this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit from Leo's insights or might actually connect with Leo so they can also work through the things that might be going through them. But I can't thank you enough, Leo, for the time and the expertise that you shared with us on the call today.
Thank you so much, Prosper. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Because probably, yes, I have to start to speak out and stop being afraid of presenting myself as I am.
Absolutely. Well, there's always a starting ground, and I'm glad you chose the Online Prosperity Show to be one of those places. And for those that are listening, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show, where more enlightening discussions like this actually find their starting ground. I want you to join us next time as we dive into the ideas that can help you lead your life in a happier existence. Until next time, I encourage you to take proactive steps towards your mental and emotional well-being. And remember, seeking help as a sign of strength, not weakness.
Absolutely.
Bye for now.